Welcome back to another episode of Unheard Voice. As you can already see, we have a guest. He's already here. He's ready to go. I've always wanted to say this because this is the first time I've actually had someone like this on. We have a national champion, actually on the episode today, and I am sort of quite happy about it. And I would like to introduce you all to Sam Fossey.
How you all doing? Hope you're all well.
Good, good, good. Oh, that doesn't work. All right. Anyway, um, so before we get into any nitty and gritty stuff,
Yeah.
let's just get into the basics and the normal quick ins and outs, pros and quos. So,
Yeah, of course.
what position do you play, and what is your current team?
So I play defensive back. I don't really class myself as just having a position. I play safety right now for Manchester Titans, but throughout career I've played free safety, strong safety, rover, corner, like just wherever the team needs me really.
Wow. Okay, that's good. Has there been any other sports you played before American football?
So typical English boy, used to play football. Obviously, just like kicking around in school, five-a-side. That was just what it was. And then with American football, how I actually found it is I moved over to the States when I was like 13. And when I went to school over there for about a year, in that school, they did flag football, like American football. So I had no idea what it was, but I was like, yeah, why not? We'll play it. Loved it, enjoyed it. And then I was just like, right, I got to understand what this sport is now.
Okay, so you've discovered it. What? So you've probably played what, like since you're 15, 13?
Yeah, so kind of a bit about the backstory of playing is I believe this year was my either 16th or 17th total year in the sport.
Wow.
So obviously 13 years old is where I played like flag football in school in Florida, like first time ever. Didn't know what it was. I was like, yeah, why not? Then after that year, I came back to the UK, back down to London, where I'm originally from. And that's where I actually found the London Warriors.
Oh.
So yeah, bit confident there.
Oh.
So I'm sure we'll get to that one later on. But so
Yeah.
football really started when I was 13, 14 years old.
Damn. Okay. So it's been a very long time. Okay. So you've mentioned that you played for the Warriors, and obviously your current team is the Manchester Titans. So when you came back to London and did you find any other teams other than the Warriors that you were thinking of trying to play for?
So not really. Obviously, where I'm from, like I'm from Croydon, so South London.
Okay.
So when I came back, obviously I just typed in American football teams near me. Obviously, teams like the Blitz and Olympians that came up, but they were all kind of like North London. Olympians, I couldn't remember exactly where they were, but when I searched, like the Warriors were the first team that came up. And then when I kind of clicked on their information and they were just like at Selhurst near Crystal Palace, I was just like, right, that's like 10-minute bus ride from where I am. So this kind of made sense. One bus and then there. So it made it a bit easy.
Okay. So how long were you at the Warriors for then?
So Warriors, I was there from age of 14, where I played five-a-side contact.
Okay.
And then I was there all the way to 2021. And that was when we actually beat the Blitz for the first time to like dethrone them from on their big run. And that's kind of where the Warriors started off having their big run, 2013, the first Brit Bowl they won.
Yeah, I remember doing that. So I don't know if you've seen. I did the video about the history of national championships.
Yeah, I watched that the other day. Yeah.
So I looked at it and I was like, the Warriors really started from 2017, and it's just casually just grown and grown and grown and grown, and you're just like, damn. And there's always been two teams, but do you feel that the way that the UK ball is right now, that there really is only like 4 to 5 teams that really you'll expect to be in the playoffs and fighting for the championships?
So yeah, definitely. Like I'm not gonna try and sugarcoat it. Like I'm not one of these people that are gonna kind of sit around and be like, yeah, like we've got great, amazing like league, everyone's amazing. But when you do look at the Prem division, if we're being realistic and people being honest, you've obviously got Manchester, you got Warriors, you got Tamworth, you got Blitz, and then obviously now that Bristol are kind of pulling in people from UE a little bit more and kind of getting their players back, Bristol are starting to really become what they should have been a long time ago as a Prem team, really, if you kind of think about the resources they have.
Yeah.
But that
Team
doesn't take
university.
anything away from teams like Solent. They had a great first year in the Prem. And
Agreed.
teams like Edinburgh, where they finished 6-4, they're third in the North all the time. If they can just get over that hump of a little bit more better recruitment, I mean, that could be a powerhouse in Scotland or even EKP, whichever one.
I agree. I agree because I think studying the North and looking at the North is like sometimes Edinburgh was there until the sort of the last three games. They were there. They could have had that chance to get into the playoffs, but obviously
Mm.
losing to you lot, losing to the Titans, and then obviously not beating the Phoenix kind of just knocked everything out. But I do feel that that is what you said is true. Like they're teams that some teams can get over that hump, then the Prem would be a lot more interesting and not
Mm.
very predictable on the finals coming to an end.
No,
Um,
100%. It's a massive conversation because I'm very open with this opinion, so I don't mind saying it outright. I'm sure there's a lot of different ways to look at it, but with me, if you want the UK game to be great and go to elite levels, you need to just make the Prem like 8 teams. Keep them as those 8 teams and do not change them. So, like, if we go back, obviously, Warriors, Blitz, Bristol, Tamworth, Manchester, and then you could have 2 Scottish teams.
yeah,
You could have EKP and Edinburgh because they are quite far away from each other in comparison when you actually go to Scotland. So even if
that's
you
true.
had those 7 teams or even 6 teams, whichever way you want to do it, if those teams stayed there every single year, no relegation, they just stayed there. And then if you wanted to play in quote unquote the semi pro professional league, you would have to get scouted from, say, Div 1, Div 2, somewhere else to be brought into that team.
Oh, that's the way I didn't think about it. I didn't think of it in that sort of sense because in my head, how I was always trying to propose it to a lot of people was
Mm,
the top four teams in the north, top four teams in the south, and make one league. One league its own, games played on a Saturday, or if it's even possible, a nighttime game on a Saturday, and then
mm,
obviously depending on where you have to travel, BAFA would cover like maybe the hotel or the coach journey there,
yeah.
because again, it's a lot of money that's being spent, and if you do want the game to really be professionalized within the next 10 years,
Mm.
um, something like that would actually have to be in place.
No, 100%, I agree. Because the thing is, as well, if you had those consistent 6 to 8 teams, however you want to look at it, they would be able to approach sponsors a lot easier. They would be able to kind of be to players that are in surrounding areas like, look, we know you're an hour drive away, but we can cover your gas money.
Yeah.
Like, there could be different things implemented to actually get the better players into that professional setting rather than being like, okay, I'm going to play for this lower division team, which is fine if you want to, but I'm going to play for this lower division team, see if I kind of win something, but actually I really want to play at the highest level in the country, but it's too far.
Yeah, it makes sense. That does make sense, and it's kind of crazy. But in that sense as well,
Mm.
obviously, you playing sports from you've been young. How would you say that your life has? All right, so you've been playing since you were young. So how
Yeah.
would you say that your life has sort of changed playing sports itself? Do you feel that you would have been completely different if you weren't playing sports, or do you think you would have been the same type of person?
To be fair with you, I say this to a lot of people that like ask about my journey. Like sports to me, as cliche as it might sound, like changed my life. It stopped things from happening
Yeah,
because when I was quite young, obviously I had a good upbringing, but also I had typical like other things like kind of issues, personal issues, which kind of started pushing me down the wrong like way. Like I'll be very open with it. Like I didn't really get a job till I was like 18 years old. I was just out
Okay.
doing stupid stuff, getting like in trouble with people. Like I just really didn't have a life plan. I was just like, well, we'll just wing it and see what happens. And
Uh,
then obviously playing American football when I was 14, to me it was like, oh, I just play a sport. Like why not? And then when I started to kind of realize the people that I was around at the Warriors, so
yeah.
when I had people like Tony Allen, Jerry Anderson, Marvin Allen, Adam Dern, Jeff Brown, Wes Root, like all those people,
Yeah.
like I will sit here for days and respectfully say that they helped change my life because they really did. Like they kept me in line. Like they were those coaches that they were there for football, but they were also like figures in your life.
Mm. Okay. Okay. So, what most people would say,
Hmm.
which is quite annoying, that everyone that joins the Warriors are sort of thugs, and the running
Hmm.
joke that's what people come out with, like, oh, they're thugs, or I think that there was a joke that I would hear back was like, oh, yeah, the only way the Warriors got some of their players is because obviously they went to like youth offenders and stuff like that, and got
Right.
them out. So there's some of the jokes I was sitting, there, I'm like, but obviously knowing how the Warriors are run and as well as
Hmm.
a really good program, which can't even deny it.
No, they are
So
100%.
yeah, and obviously for you, they've obviously changed everything. So like, did it hurt leaving them? Like, did you feel like any type of weight of leaving that team?
100%. Like to be fair, the only reason I left that team is because going back to it. So at the time when I was with the Warriors, I did some coaching in schools for flag football because TA brought me in with that.
Yeah,
So he helped me out and he was like, look, come coach flag football in schools with like us in the NFL. So I did that. And then I got a job at Nike in London on Oxford Street. So I was working in retail. It was fine, like it was a job, but I was like, same thing. It's like, what's retail? Is
yeah.
it's not really gonna take you anywhere. So when I got the opportunity to have a chance to move to America and go out and play there, I was like, well, why not? Like I don't have anything here to leave. So I was like, let me just go when I'm young and don't really have anything because there's nothing to lose. So
Oh,
with leaving the Warriors, and I'm sure we'll get to this like later on in the podcast, I never in my life would have thought I would play for another UK team other than the Warriors. And I had no intention to do so because I never thought I was going to leave London. So I was like, yeah, it's Warriors. It's never going to change. This is going to be it. So yeah, like
okay.
it was a good reason why I left. I didn't leave because I was just like, oh, I'm not good enough, or the sport's not good, the team not good. I was like, I left because I felt like this was a chance where I was young. I didn't have nothing holding me back. Let's just go to another country and play football. Why not?
Huh. So in a sense, that goes into the next one. So
Mm.
you obviously gone to America. So how was what was the highest that you got to when you played in America?
So the league that I played in America was United Football Federation. So they count themselves
Oh,
as a semi-pro league. So it wasn't paid, but that's what they kind of count themselves out. It's a weird setup. Like the way I explain it is, it's kind of BAFRA in the US, but higher
oh,
standards.
okay. Oh,
So like
okay.
they
So
did have sponsors. They did have ways where they would help players play on the team, get equipment, get sorted. But you was never paid as an individual. But then in terms
oh,
of like the standard of players, these were guys that were really good in high school but never made it to college because of grades, or
yeah.
maybe
Okay.
left college, didn't make it to any other league, so then played in this league to carry on playing football. So like
Hmm.
there was a couple of players on the team that I was playing on that were like had scholarships to D1 schools, but because of certain life issues, they never got there.
I got you. I got you. Oh, so they have leagues like that out there. So
Yeah.
would you say that it'd be better for most people to try do? Because is it easy to get into, or is it really difficult?
So the way I did it. So for me, it was a little bit easier because at the time I had family out there, so I had kind of a place
Okay.
to stay. So it was a kind of an easy way in that way. But in terms of actually getting on the team, you still had to try out. You still had to do quote unquote the combine test, like bench 40, all of that stuff. So it wasn't just like, right, you showed up and you was like, yeah, I'm on the team. Because there were so many people, like you would think in the US, that want to play on this team, they've got to find a way to be like, right, we're only allowed X amount of people. We've got to test these people. They can't just be like, oh yeah, everyone's here.
Oh wow.
So there was still
Um,
all that like whole combine testing, all that stuff. You had to actually pass the tryouts. If you didn't pass the tryouts, you didn't make the team. So there was still standards to actually being on the team.
ah. So okay. So with that,
Mm-hmm.
would you say that that would be a good sort of requirement for BAFA teams to do here, or do you feel that because of the way that everything is inclusive, everyone to
Mm-hmm.
include everybody, that wouldn't work out?
So I'm honest. I hate the include everyone thing. I hate it. That's just me being a competitor. Like I hate it, but I understand. I guess why it's in sports. But again, if we go back to that first topic, where if we actually had a top Prem division that was the same teams every year, you
Yeah.
could warrant being like, right, we like what you've been doing in Div 1. You're invited to a tryout. Let's see you in person now. Let's see your testing. Let's see your route running. Let's see your backpedaling, so on and so forth. And then you could pick from that pool of what you test. But right now, it wouldn't work
Yeah.
because of how
Yeah.
it is, where you literally, if you pay and register and you pay your subs, you're on the team.
Yeah. That's the truth.
Like that, it doesn't matter. Like you can never play the sport in your life, and as long as you register and pay your subs,
You're in.
you're in. And
Okay.
that's why I think going back to that thing, we need to, for this country to develop, you need to have boundaries of what we're doing. You need to have a league where there's actually like standards, so the top athletes in the UK actually want to stay in the UK, so they play the best every single year. Then you have a league underneath it, like call it Div 1 if you want to call it Div 1. That's your developmental league. That's like where you're serious, trying to get better at the sport. You want to
Yeah.
play in the Prem. And then obviously still keep Div 2, but Div 2 is generally your league where,
For fun
yeah,
and
like
people
if
that
you
have.
literally have seen the sport on TV and you're like, let's go play football. Yeah, okay, go to that team. And it's a
Yeah.
different, like it's a clear cut of what you actually want in the sport if you have those three breakups.
Yeah. And it does seem like it'll be a lot more fair, and
Mm-hmm.
it's still inclusive to people that just want to come out on a Saturday and or a Sunday and play
Mm.
football itself, which is a lot more easier. Hey, Baffa, listen to the idea and think about it. Um, but yeah, that does make sense. But in America, how many years did you play out there before you came back to the UK?
So I stayed out there for 2 seasons,
Oh,
and then so the first season was kind of a shock. I didn't start. I played, but I didn't start. I was like, damn, like all right, like what was this like? So I was like, all right. And then second year started, and I was still a corner back then. So I started at corner in America. That's where I was playing. And so yeah, 2 years, and then after in my kind of second year near the end of the season, I got an
yeah.
injury and it stopped me from playing. So when I was out there, I was only kind of like doing cash in hand work. So when I got
Okay.
injured, I didn't really have anything. So then I was kind of sitting there like I'm like turning 23, going 24. Like what am I actually doing? And that was kind of like the wake up call. I was like, you know what? Like I'm not just stop football, but I need to go back to the UK and actually kind of start planning my adult life, like actually get an adult life. because I was just sitting there. I was like, yeah, injured, can't play football now. Why am I here for?
I get that. So, all right. So when you came back to the UK,
Mm-hmm.
obviously after your 2 years in America, did you go straight to Manchester or did you come back to London?
No, so I wanted to come back to London, but by the time I got back 3 years later, like prices just skyrocketed.
Ah,
And I was coming back to the country with no job, no money, nothing. I was just like, I can't go to London. I don't have the money for it. Like, it's just not going to happen. So I had family up north around the Sheffield area, like Sheffield, Rotherham area. So
okay.
I reached out to them. I was like, look, can I come stay here for a bit just to like get a job, get on feet and everything. So they allowed me to. So the team that I went to first when I came back was actually the Sheffield Predators, but now Sheffield Giants.
Ah,
So they were the first
okay.
team that I came back because they were the closest team. They was only like 20 minutes away from where I was staying. And then it was 3 years that I spent with them. So the first year I was with them, they were actually changing their name from Sheffield Predators to Sheffield Giants, so rebranding.
Okay.
So that season, I think we finished 3-7, if I'm not wrong. So it's a tough year. That was like my first season in football where like I
You
lost.
lost. Yeah.
I was just
Yeah.
like, and with the type of player I am, and that people that know me, losing like is not for me. Like I hate it, like with a passion. I hate it.
Yes.
So I was mad, but I was kind of like, right, it's a rebuilding year. They're rebranding. We're gonna recruit. Second year, we recruited some really good players, but then again, the season kind of stalled. We went 4-6.
Oh.
So I was like, right. I was like, right, that's a bit. It's better, but that's an underachievement for the players that we actually had on the team at that time.
Yeah.
Because we had some good players, but it was an underachievement. And then I was like, right, we've got a good core here. Let's recruit a bit more. Because after, I believe, it was either the first season I was with Sheffield or the second, is when Manchester started trying to recruit me.
Oh.
Or Sam Bloomfield did, because he's the recruiter. He's the man. He reaches out to people. So I was like, back then, I'm the loyal player. I'm like, no, I'm gonna stay here. I'm gonna help build this thing. So then second season, I was like no, not gonna go. Like I'm gonna stay. We're good. We can make something happen. And then third season, people started to drop off, leave the team, and then it got to a point like we got to end the season. We finished the season like 3-7, and the last game of the season was against Manchester, ironically.
Oh
So,
God.
and in that game, because of kind of people dropping out, some injuries, and some other things, I had to play every snap on defense, most snaps on special team, and I played running back on
Oh.
offense
Oh God.
because we got some injuries in the running back in that game. And then I put no blame on like Sheffield at all, so I don't want people to think I am. But in that game, like I got heavily injured in that game, which actually stopped me from being selected for GB.
Damn.
So after that game, that was kind of like the point where I didn't know where I was going, but it wasn't going to be Sheffield next year.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
So I was like, I've tried to be loyal. I've tried to install the winning ways. Like I've tried to. It wasn't just me. There are a group of people there, so I don't want people to think like, it's just me. There's a great group of people there, and there's some good players there. But I just kind of went away from it. I was like, I'm not doing this no more. Like I've tried, we've tried. I'm not putting up with it anymore because I don't want my career to be this. That's not what I play football for.
Yeah, I get that. I get that
So,
completely.
so after that third season with Sheffield, obviously still in contact with Bloomfield. He's like, right, what's your thoughts? What you doing? And then at the same time, one of the old players from Tamworth were talking to me as well
Oh.
about going to there. So
So
it was
it was
between
a toss up
Manchester and
between.
Tamworth.
Damn.
And so what it really came down to, and I'm sure people might not like the answer, but it came to what was easier to travel for me.
Oh, that's totally fair.
Because
That's totally fair. No one can
because
be angry with that.
because at the time, like don't get me wrong, like if you ask me now, it's Manchester everything. Like I back Manchester to the end of
Yeah.
time. So, but at the time, because I was like, right, they're the two top teams, like clearly. They both like I know players from both teams, I know coaches from both teams. I've met him at like GB through playing everything. And Tamworth was a pain to get through. Like it was so hard to get to.
Damn.
And then
How long?
Manchester wasn't. So I ended up going to one of Manchester's veteran days, like kind of where they like kind of allow people to come try out practice, whatnot. And I was just like, yeah, like I like the energy, I like what this team's about, I like what their coach's messages are. So transferred.
Wow. So how long would it have taken you to get to Tamworth then?
So Tamworth, it would have taken me, I believe, just over 2 hours, based on
Ooh.
like the trains where I'd have to like get a train into Sheffield and then train from Sheffield to Tamworth.
Yeah, no.
And I don't think
No.
anyone lived like close to me in that area at the time that I knew about. But then with Manchester, I could get there in about an hour and a half, but there was also people in the surrounding area
That would.
that would be able to pick me up and go as well.
Yeah. Jesus,
So,
that's so hold up.
mm,
So this is how crazy it is. So I used to play for London Olympians,
hmm
and that was like, although my reasoning was completely different to a lot of people, but I think my journey was like an hour and a half, and that's just across London.
yeah,
You're going from a city to a completely different.
yeah, it's different. North,
That's
North is more spread out. It's not.
yeah,
It's not just one
yeah,
big city. Like it's if you want another team within the same division that like if you look at the Prem, they're all in different cities.
yeah. Apart from the London teams, in a
Yeah,
sense.
like obviously London, you got Blitz and Warriors. They're in London. So,
Yeah,
but then when you look at the North, they're all completely different cities.
they'll spread out, which is good.
Oh,
Which
definitely.
I think is probably a lot better. Um, but yeah, I think in London we have what Warriors, Kent, and Olympians all within like 30 minutes from each other.
Oh, are they all that close?
So
They never even
yeah,
realized.
I think that they are genuinely that close. It's either 30 to 45 minutes, but
Hmm.
it's not a long distance for them to travel there. But then you've got people that would just be trying to think, okay, I'll go here and I'll be able to get into the Warriors if they want to. But
hmm
then some people just don't have that. I've heard that some people just come try to get to the Warriors just to get the ring or just to put on this kit, take some pictures for social media, and then obviously never try out hard in practice and try to get on the field, which I think that happens in a lot of different teams.
hmm
A lot of people just go to a game, train, pay, and just take pictures instead of trying to work and get better at the
Yeah,
game,
yeah, 100%.
which which is which is fair for people to do. That's their prerogative. But
hmm
to some people, that's just like, well, you're wasting our time in trying to
Yeah.
do anything with you.
Well, that comes back to the point we were talking about. That's why we need to change things
Yes.
because, like you said, it's totally fine if you want that. It really is, but the top teams aren't the teams you do that. And
Definitely not.
like I don't speak for the whole of like Manchester. Like I don't like we have very big personalities. We have very good leaders in Manchester. But in terms of a defensive standpoint, if you talk to any of the defensive players, how I lead from the front on that defense, I tell people very directly, if you are here just to be a cheerleader and participate, I don't care, but don't get in the way of people that are trying to achieve a ring and achieve being the best team in the UK.
Yeah.
If you want to be here just to be like, oh yeah, I play, I do this, I do it, that's fine. Like I don't care, but don't get in the way of people that are here for the right reasons.
I agree.
And
I agree.
you can take that as you want as a person. I'm not too fussed as a player if you like me or not, because people understand with me, like when I came to Manchester, not saying they weren't face of that, because their goal has forever been national champions. But when I
That's a
came,
tricky
like
point,
I
yeah.
verbally said it consistently from 2019 when I got there, all through COVID
Okay.
year, all through this year, we're winning a ring, we're winning a ring, we're winning a ring. That this is it. We're gonna be the best team. This is it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what it should be. That's
Hmm.
what it should be because obviously, well, I'll get into that question later. But there are things that I've heard people from other teams actually say, or and teams that I've been on that have said certain things that sort of rub you the wrong way. You're just like, okay, that's not how you should be going into this game. But I'm gonna just leave it like that and just do what I've got to do and
Uh
try
huh.
to do what I've got to do to prevent anything going crazy. Um, but yeah, so when you said that you were at Sheffield,
Yeah.
just referring back, you said that you got injured and you weren't able to be selected for GB. So how many times have you played for GB, or was that sort of like your first time
So
getting into it?
before I went to America, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't even know there was a GB team. I had no idea.
Yeah.
And then when I came back from America, I actually played in like university for Hallam for a year before I left
Oh,
university. It just wasn't for me, so I kind of was like, I'm not staying here for 3 years if it's not for me.
yeah, I get that.
So I left uni, but I played 1 year for Hallam. And at the time, um, Karchi, the head coach, he was working with GB, and he basically said to me, there's a tryout coming up. Apply for it. So I was like, okay, like, why not? So I applied for it, went to the training session. Unfortunately, that was the first year I was coming back off of my injury I got in the States.
Okay.
So I didn't make the first cut for GB from that try list. I was like, at that time, I was like, you know what? It is what it is. Like, I know what player I am. I will always confidently say what player I am. I don't need recognition from people. But I was just like, okay, it is what it is. I didn't even know there's a GB team, so let's just see what happens. And then, so now playing for Sheffield, when I got fully fit again, I got a call up for GB again. And
Nice.
then went to the
You did.
practices. And then I ended up, didn't go to the first tournament because I was new to the team.
Oh, okay.
So I think the team was like already selected. The tournaments always happen. I kind of got brought in as it was happening. So I was like, cool, like be part of it. And this was at a time where GB was very spread out. So you would have maybe 3 practices a year. This wasn't like what
Yeah.
it was now, where obviously being part of GB now still, I think since it started again with Jason Scott taking over, I I could be wrong, but I think we've had like 10 plus practices,
That's a lot.
including like 2 a days like we've had a lot, and virtual classrooms where beforehand you maybe got 3 to 5 a year. So it's like, it's different.
Yeah. You're not
So
really gonna be able to compete.
yeah, there was never, because the thing is, I never really knew where I stood with GB as a personal player, just because I came to a practice, we didn't have practice for ages, I didn't hear anything, and then it was like, oh, this happened. I was like, all right. So it was never kind of
Yeah.
taken serious in a sense. And then there was 1 year where they brought me as a DB. Then there wasn't a practice for a good while. Then the next practice, they brought me in as a linebacker. I was like, right. So I've never
Oh,
played linebacker, but I mean, I guess like I'll go for it. Why not? And then came around again to the other practice, and then found out that I made the 75-man squad. And
as
then
a
that
linebacker.
no, as a DB.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, right. But the thing is, the way I found out, it got released on BAFA. Like I didn't even have communication. I didn't even know. I didn't even get told. I just saw a list and I was like, oh. Like, cool. And then I think that I can't remember what games it was for. Like the last games that GB played for, like whoever they played, I can't remember. And then I think
Um,
I was on the 75, and I think they already had selection for the 45 traveling squad. It might have been against like Switzerland or France or someone, whoever they played last. And then I
okay,
think
yeah.
one or two of the safeties got injured. So from my knowledge, what I got told is I was going to get picked, but then obviously I got injured in that last game for Sheffield and Titans. So then I had to tell the coach, I was like, "Yeah, I'm injured. Like I can't go."
Jeez. Oh, that must have hurt. That must have hurt at that time. You're just like,
It was because like
can't,
it,
can't.
yeah, it felt like the first time where I guess GB was in my eyes. Obviously, it's different for everyone, but in my eyes, it was starting to mean something
Yeah.
because I was like, okay, right, like I'm on the 75 man squad. Never knew about it. Now I'm like one step away from going away, and then to find out like I was in consideration to replace one of the injured
Someone.
safeties, and then I was injured. I was like fuck,
That's
and
that.
that kind of like pushed it as well for another reason where I was like, I would never have got injured if I kind of didn't have to play that much.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was another
That.
factor where I was like, I'm kind of respectfully, I'm done here.
Yeah, I get that. Now, because you said that, obviously, because you played both, you played the whole game,
For the
basically.
most part, yeah.
That whole thing. So obviously, this is going back to what we were talking about earlier. How if we had just set teams in the Prem.
Hmm.
So this year there were two forfeits at the end of the season in the South,
Hmm.
and then we had, I don't know how many players Samuel Steelers had against you lot for their final game. I think
They had
I know
18,
they
I
had.
believe. 18 to 20 they traveled down with.
Okay, because I know, because from what I was told, they had 17 for Tamworth. Now I understand that if you don't have player safety alongside, so the two teams that forfeited, I'm not going to name the names because I think everyone knows who they are. The two teams
Yeah,
that
we all know.
forfeited, we understand we understand that what the reasoning behind it was player safety,
Hmm.
which I get, but in a sense, you probably did know during the week that you weren't going to have enough players to play,
You
which
100% know.
fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. Some things could happen on a Sunday morning. Maybe you could have enough players on Sunday morning, but you obviously would have had enough to play the game. Now with Samuel Steelers, they knew they had less, but they still showed up and played.
Yeah.
I know you're probably going to respect Samuel Steelers more, obviously, because they
Hmm.
actually showed up and not wasted anyone's time. But if they had forfeited, would you have been annoyed with them as well, or would you
So
have just thought player safety?
it wouldn't have been a case of being annoyed because I think when you look at the two situations and the teams, so with Sandwell, if you followed the North, you would understand that they got hit quite hard in COVID year. It wasn't any
Oh
part
yeah,
of their fault because obviously COVID was a thing, but they literally just came up to the Prem in 2019 and then COVID hit. So I
yeah,
think COVID was a perfect excuse for the people that were like, might retire or might not. They said, "Oh fuck, I'll retire. There's no football." So with
yeah,
Sandwell, respectively to them, and this isn't even because they showed up to us in Tamworth. It's not because of that. They played us the first game of the season, and we beat them. I believe it was 77-0, and they had a
yes,
full squad at that time for what they had. And for the people that know Sandwell from up the north, even we were saying after the game, like, right, they've lost a lot of people, respectfully.
okay,
So
uh,
when they kind of stuck it out for the season, people weren't looking at them and like, why are they here for yada yada yada. It was more like it's been a very tough situation for them, and it's respectfully that they've actually been like, you know what, we might not be Prem ready now, but we've decided to stay in so we can go down to Div 1 next year and kind of develop again. because I believe, I don't know if this is true. Like, I don't really follow the politics, but I'm sure if like you forfeit the season, you actually get put down all the way back to like you have to earn your way back into Div 2 again, and they didn't want
Yeah.
to do
So
that. So they
okay.
respectively they kind of were honest with teams before they were playing them nearer the end of the year, and they were like, look, we're still gonna come, we'll do this and this, and then call it a day.
I respect that
But
quite a bit,
then
to be honest.
when you go to teams like Olympians and Kent, I'll say their name.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine. You can talk to me
Yeah.
in DMs. I don't mind. You come into your established teams. Like, you obviously have a good level of player count, but because the season wasn't going how you wanted to, by the sounds of it, looking from outside in, you kind of just spat your dummy out and said, "Oh, I'm not really playing."
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
you start to take away from other teams because instead of kind of being honest, you're still kind of just, yeah, we'll be there, we'll be there. And then the day before, you're like, oh, yeah, now we're not coming.
Yeah. Well, I do have to admit, with Olympians,
Mm-hmm.
obviously the players showed up to that game.
Yeah.
I remember showing up about 15 minutes before kickoff, and then I got told that it was getting forfeited because they only had 17 players.
Right.
But it got forfeited 15 minutes before kickoff.
So,
So I think that's probably one of the reasons why you saw a lot of the posts from the Warrior players.
mm-hmm.
They were like obviously pissed off. That I can understand.
Yeah.
But then I went down to the Blitz Exiles game that same day. Obviously, they were 30 minutes away, so drove down there. But then I saw some Olympians players that had said that they weren't going to show up anyway. They knew from Monday that a lot of players weren't going to show up. So yeah,
They
it
already
was
knew.
Yeah, yeah.
They
So
didn't want to show up and play the Warriors.
Some of the players, yeah, some of the players just weren't going to show up because they knew they were going to get a beating and stuff like that. So it was. I think there was a lot of consensus around a lot of people. They were just like, yeah, that's done. They need to, like, you need to leave. You need to not be in the Prem at all anymore. Just drop down and just you should be banned from being promoted for at least a year or two to show that you have a consistent level of players playing.
Yeah, I agree.
Which is a fair statement. Can't deny that. But yeah, and then obviously with Ken, I'm still not 100% sure on what happened there, but obviously that was forfeited about 5 hours before the game. So
yeah, like with Kent, I
yeah,
don't know much about. Like, I speak to a couple players from there, so like I'm not really commenting on Kent because I don't know their situation, so it's not fair to do that. But kind of like with the Olympian situation, I still talk to a lot of the Warrior boys and kind of what they were saying, what happened, and how it was handled. You know well in advance, because I'm sure teams still do it when there's game week. I'm sure people, we used to always
check
have
in.
posts in the Facebook chat like, "Are you available for the game? Yes or no."
Yes. Yeah.
I'm sure
Yeah.
every UK team does that.
You have to because you need to plan.
Yeah, you need to know who you have.
So you've got to have to do it.
Yeah, we still do it, so I'm sure everyone else does it for the most part.
But then obviously, then that comes back to what we were saying at the beginning of the podcast of having a select amount of teams in one Division 4, and then potentially maybe you could do promotions, but the scouting bit of having 8 set teams probably sounds like the best option that could come around.
Yeah,
because
it becomes a professional. It becomes a professional setting. Because if you look all around Europe, and even if you want to, like, the ELF is a bit of a different thing. They have a lot of money going into it, so it's very different.
Yeah.
But if you look at like GLF and those kind of leagues, the teams don't change. It's just the players that come in.
Yeah.
Every single year, the GLF 1 is the GLF 1, I believe. I could be wrong, so if someone wants to correct me, they can. But I believe it's the same teams every year.
Well, so from what I've heard from people that have played over there,
Mm-hmm.
so I think what they do is if the team that gets red is that loses the GLF 1,
Yeah,
and they're going to get relegated, they have a relegation battle again. They have a relegation game against the team that's meant to get promoted.
Right. Okay. That's decent. That's
So
decent.
so so if you can't beat the team that's meant to get relegated, you stay in the division that you're
Yeah.
in,
You
and then
don't. You
obviously the
don't
team that
quote
was
unquote
meant to get
deserve to go up to the top one.
yeah, and then the team that gets promoted, that the team that was meant to get relegated, obviously keeps their spot because they're the ones that have
Mm.
won that fight. I think in a sense, I think that should be a good idea for BAFA to do instead of
Yeah. Definitely.
because there was a big conversation on one of the Facebook pages where people were talking about their experience,
Hmm.
and people were saying, well, the Div 1 final kind of doesn't really mean much because both teams have already earned promotion
Yeah. I get that.
up to it. So I think that in a sense of Div 1, instead of that Div 1 finals game, wouldn't it be better to do a relegation game on that BAFA weekend to see who actually gets
Mhm.
put back up into the respective Premiership division, or if they stay in Div 1, which again would
Mhm.
be really interesting.
I agree with it because, like, very honestly, I think there's potentially three Div 1 teams in the north that could have beat the bottom three Northern Prem teams this year.
EKP is probably one.
EKP, Leicester, and most probably Northumberland, the Vikings.
Yeah,
I believe those three teams, because the Vikings played EKP really well. I know in the
they did
playoff they slipped up a bit and got kind of dominated,
caught out.
but in the regular season they split games. So I don't know what happened in that playoff game, obviously, but that's football. Sometimes you get smacked in the mouth. It is what it is. But I truly believe, and I'll say it, like I believe those three Div 1 teams would beat the bottom three Prem North teams, the state that they're in currently.
Hmm.
So it
I
is very depending on how you look at it. I think would be a good idea. Bottom has to play the top of Div
relegated.
1.
Yeah, it would be fun. I think a lot of people would turn out for it as well because
Yeah.
I feel like that would be very interesting to
Because then you would have had
watch both
Cambridge
of them.
Cats play Olympians, and then you would have had EKP play Sandwell.
Yeah, and if you can't beat them, then
You don't deserve to be
you
up.
need to stay where you are. Exactly. Yeah.
Because
Well,
there's plenty of times where the Div 1 winner comes up to the Prem, and then they lose, and they either go straight back down, or they become a bottom team for a good few years, and then they go back down.
yeah, and I think that's what a lot of people thought that was going to happen with Solent, but obviously Solent having the great year that they had this year, finishing
Hmm.
what fourth, and they obviously
Yeah, I
again
think they
they
finished
beat
fourth.
Blitz. Yeah, they beat Blitz in their first meet
Yeah,
up by a field
I
goal.
think it was 2 points.
I
Yeah, 3 points.
think
It was
no,
like nine to
Bristol,
six
Bristol
or
was two
something, I
points.
believe.
Yeah, it was 9-6. They beat them
Yeah,
by a field
Bristol.
goal. So again, it it was they've done that outfit was probably the best Div 1 team that was Prem ready to come up to run themselves in the Premiership.
Yeah,
Obviously, COVID happened, and then they had to
they
wait
got
another
they got
couple of
great
years.
coaching.
So
Yeah, because
it
they
was
like
a
the second
possibility.
Bristol game, Bristol only beat him 11-0.
Yeah, and it was a really hard fought game actually.
Yeah,
They
like
Bristol didn't feel like it was a
when
close
you
one.
watch that back, because obviously we got that for our film when we were prepping for the playoffs and watching that game. It was close. There was inches where Solon could have won that game,
Mm,
like
wow,
inches.
damn.
If a few things
Okay,
went the Thrashers' way, Thrashers would have won.
okay. So fair enough. Seeing as we talked about Bristol,
Mm.
preparing for so your season this year was I'm gonna say it felt like it was sort of a roller coaster. Obviously, you beat Tamworth in your first game,
Yeah.
and then you just went on a nice winning streak until you've met Tamworth again in the second
Hmm.
game. What happened in that second game? What was there? Were Tamworth just more prepared, or did you lot
Um.
sort of let your eye off the ball for a sec?
So Tamworth, of course, they came more prepared. Of course, they did. Because when you have a coach like Jason Scott and some other coaches they have involved in GB currently, it was impossible that they weren't going to be a different team.
Yeah,
They're not going to adjust. They're not going to throw different new things at us. It's just not going to happen. you saw what happened in the semi-finals against Warriors. Like regardless of all these top teams having their inner battle like rivalries, we all still respect each other and understand like we're playing a good team.
Yes.
So obviously they did come more prepared. You can't say they didn't. They had a lot more film to watch on us. They had a lot more time to prepare as well. So obviously, granted to them, they did a great job at that. I don't. So I'll only ever kind of speak on offense for our team because obviously, I mean defense. I'm not on the offense, so I will never speak of them or like about them or because I don't know much. I'm an outsider. But like defensive wise, in that game, I don't want to use this as an excuse, but it's not. But it's a true fact that we had 4 to 6 of our starters go down at different points in that game and leave the game.
Oh.
So there was a good portion where we had players that left the game at different parts due to kind of injuries, other reasonings. So it was like, right, that's a bit of a hit. So again, I don't want to use that as an excuse. Tamworth were ready, they were prepared, they did well. You can't take away what they did. But that is a factor that a lot of people don't know about. Would it have changed the game? Who knows? We never know until next year now. So, and then from what you said about if we kind of were too big on ourselves.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say we were too big on ourselves because we carry ourselves with, I believe, like respectable hype. We won't go around. I'll make this very clear on podcast so whoever watches this can understand. Manchester will never start anything. People always come at us, they talk about us, they talk about our attitude, they talk about how we play, they talk about everything. And then we're like, okay, we're playing on this date. Once we win, start doing stuff, you're going to hear about it on the field and you're going to hear about it afterwards. So you can start it, you can have all that, but we'll finish it. That's how we work. But for some reason, it's always Manchester or this, Manchester or that.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't want to say we were too hyped on ourselves because that's how we are, that's how we carry ourselves. But as much as I wanted a perfect season, I wanted 10-0. In a very weird way, I'm not happy we lost, but I think it pushed us in the right direction to finish where we wanted to this season.
Yeah.
It gave us that reset. It gave us that, you know, oh shit, like we are that team, but we need to still make sure we do things correctly to get where we want to be.
Do the simple things correct. Don't be overdoing it.
Yeah, because if you think about the two games, the first game where we played Tamworth week 2, it was really close. I think it was like 7-3 at halftime to Tamworth.
Yeah, I believe it was.
It was something like that. Like it was a 1-score game, like, or it might even been 3-0. I think it was 3-0. So I believe it was 3-0, and Tamworth were winning. And then afterwards, we came out on the first offensive drive and scored. Then they got a kick return the very next play. So it was 10-7. And then after it hit 10-7, I think was the first time we realized as a team what we could do if we play us. And that's where we went. And the second half of that game, we dominated that game.
Yeah, the game ended 32-10.
32-10. Like we dominated, and that's not like trying to be disrespectful or egotistic, but that's how it was. And I think off that dominance, because we were playing teams that we felt we should comfortably beat, we started letting a few things like slip. We was like, you know what, we're untouchable, we're this, we're doing this, we're this, we're this. And then when we played Tamworth again, we weren't the same team we were kind of week 1.
Yeah.
The not the momentum, but the dynamic shifted a little bit. And then that bad loss, for many different football reasons, it happened. It was still a close game, 28-21. It wasn't like they killed us. After that game, we kind of had a regroup and we were like, right, let's get back to us. It was too much what this person was saying, what that person was saying, what that person was doing. It started to go away from us, and then it became us again. And that's when it just, well, I mean, it got us the championship. So, I mean,
man, this one's sort of snide, but it's not. But within BAFA,
yeah.
have you sort of classed any team that's there like as overrated, or do you feel like there's a team that people are just afraid to play?
There's a team that's overrated.
Yeah. Is there any team that you class as an overrated team, or?
I wouldn't say there's a team that's classed as overrated.
Yeah.
But because every top team is a top team for a reason. So both London teams, Blitz and Warriors, they've been there for years, and there's reasons why they're there. Tamworth, obviously, they built up to it, but they've been cemented for years now. Manchester, again, they built up to it, but now for the last few years, they've been cemented. So, like, the teams are cemented. So it's not that any team is overrated, but I think sometimes it gets to a point where people give other teams too much respect. You have to respect all your opponents, but sometimes there's that fine line where you get too respectful and you forget to start hyping yourself up, and you worry too much about what they possibly could do. If that makes sense.
Okay. That makes 100%.
So you kind of forget how you carry yourself, because you're like, oh, we're playing this team this week. We got to watch about this. They've got a good player here. Okay, yeah, cool. They've got a good player. So have we. We got this guy to do this. We got that. Like, it's fine. Let them have good players. We got good players too. And then let's play football for 4 quarters. So I think there's no team that's like kind of overly respected that shouldn't be. I think the teams that are respected in the country, there's a reason why they're respected, rightfully so. But I think teams sometimes, especially the teams that are trying to build something, over respect the good teams, and they lose before they step on the field.
Yes.
They already look at the game and they're like, oh, we're playing them this week. Let's just show up and see what we can do. Instead of saying, we're playing them, let's go prove ourselves.
I agree.
Different mindset, different wording.
Very true. So when it came down to game time and going forward, how many times have you been ejected from any games?
Me?
Have you ever been ejected from a game?
I got ejected for 2 unsportsmanlikes at the end of COVID year. So I never played the first game against Sandwell this year.
Yeah.
So I got... Say again?
What did you get ejected for?
So people that know me know that I like to talk a lot of shit. So I'm the guy on the field that after I make a play, or if I know you've been talking shit about us leading up to the game, when it comes game day, I will let you know, like, we here. I'm that guy. I do that. I carry that. I'll be that guy. It doesn't bother me. And there was 2 incidents where, so I think one of the games at the last game in the COVID year is I celebrated after doing something and I got unsportsmanlike for it.
Oh my God.
So I was like, right, okay, whatever. Like, I'll take that one on the chin. I'll be good now. I won't do anything. And the second unsportsman I got, like, I would defend this to the day. Like, some people say I lie, but I'm not. So I sacked the QB, and because I knew I had it unsportsmanlike, I ran back to my huddle. I was talking to my coach on the sideline, getting the play. someone else said something, like swore on the field, and because the ref was standing near me, he threw the flag and said unsportsmanlike on 8 for swearing. I was like, I looked at him, I was like, I'm talking to my coach. I didn't say anything. He was like, no, it was you. I was like, what? So yeah,
Oh,
so
wow.
I'm not taking responsibility for the second one. The first one I did. I celebrated. I made sure people knew what I did. But the second one, I will never take responsibility for that. But it made me miss the first game of the season this year against Sandwell.
Wow. has anyone who the person that swore, have they sort of come to you and said my bad for swearing or get you rejected, or
Nah, I don't even know
everyone
who
just
it
kept
is.
quiet?
It wasn't even anyone on our team. It was someone
Oh,
when I was running back to the huddle, I heard something behind me, like saying something. I started talking to my coach. I was like, "What do you want next?" And then I just got a
and then
flag. I was like, "Huh?"
wow,
So
that's
I was like, "Right, cool. I guess I gotta leave the game." I was like, "Fantastic." So that's cool.
Jesus. Huh. Okay, so before I get into the next question,
Yeah.
I want to ask you. I want to ask you to do something.
Okay.
So I do this with everyone. I pop it in at the most random times where you're not even thinking about it. So I want you to give me your starting 11 offensive players, and then give me your starting 11 defensive players of anyone that you've played with or anyone that you've played against.
Jesus Christ. There's a lot
You
of
can pick
people.
your you can pick your formation on offense. You can pick your formation on defense, but it has to be one particular person for each position. Not
Right.
two, not three, just one person per spot.
Right. Okay. All right. Let me. Do I have to pick like the whole O line and D line as well? Because names are hard
Yes.
to pick. Jesus.
Or you could say their number from whatever team it is
Okay.
and at that time.
All right. So QB, I'll start with offense because this is the one that I need to think about the most.
All right.
So offense QB, I'll pick Jerome Allen
Okay.
because I played with him in 2012 or 11, 12, and 13. He was the QB at the time. I don't think there's ever been a better QB in British football than him. And I think that's very universally thought of. That's no disrespect to anyone else because there's very good other quarterbacks. But I think what he achieved, what he did, kind of where he went over to America and stuff, like he's definitely a top one.
Okay.
Running back, I'm gonna have to pick. How many running backs do I get?
Whatever formation you want.
Can I have
You
like
can
two
pick three
subs?
black.
Can I have a starter and two subs at running back?
All right. You can have two subs. You can have
All
two
right, cool.
subs. You can have two subs for the whole
For
for everything. So you
everyone.
can put two people.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool,
you can
cool.
put two people in certain places.
All right, so running back, teams I've played with, obviously. There's some very good running backs that I've never played on the same team as, but
Yeah.
people I've played with. Trying to think now, Jesus. I
I
would
love this
pick.
question.
I'll pick two of my Manchester boys. So Joe Nicholson, and
Okay.
Tom Jones, which everyone saw in the final. The 21-year-old
Yeah.
phenom, that just crazy. Turned 21 this year as well. So,
Nice.
and then for running back, I would go with Dwayne Watson for Warriors.
All right. Yeah.
I believe had a little chat with him. He's potentially coming back next year. Not confirmed or not, but said he is. So that would be my running backs. Offensive line, I would have to pick Kevin Calhoun from Warriors. He wore 56. He came from Farnham Knights and then came over to Warriors. Vic Bamba, number 50 for Warriors. I remember when I came up to like the senior team, he was one of the cornerstones, like mentality guys. Lukasz, one of the guards / tackles for Titans. Polish national guy. He wears number 74, no, 79. I'll send you his Instagram link, and then you'll watch his highlights that he posts all this season. He kills people.
Okay.
But he's the nicest guy you'll ever meet. Nicest guy you'll ever meet.
You want a monster on the old line.
Yeah, like he'll throw you to the ground and then he'll help you up and smile at you. It's weird. Other tackle, I would most probably go with Ricard. He was at the Warriors as well. He was actually playing in the finals, but I played with him in 2013 as well. And then for the last guard position, most probably go. I know he normally plays center, but I know he can play guard. Johnny Morehouse plays for the Titans.
Okay.
So he was center in the finals. So he's a great player. Like, I wouldn't say he's undersized, but he might be a bit smaller than other linemen. But like, he's just a dog. Like, he's got attitude. Like, he's just a player.
Very nice.
And
you said O line was gonna be hard.
It's hard. But it's because I think the O lineman, like, if you go back to like 2013, like Warriors that I played with, and then Manchester this year. I mean, in the finals, I think there was only one sack on Sam, I believe. I think I only saw him got sacked once.
I have to watch it again, you know.
Like, the O line absolutely balled.
Yeah.
And then when you go back to 2013, the first team that kind of knocked Blitz off and start the dynasty for Warriors, like, they're all legends. It's tough. Right, so receivers now. I would go with two of the Titans guys. So I'm going with a spread offense here. So 4 receivers.
Yes.
So Adam Bamba, he wears number 0 for Titans.
Okay.
For people that don't know, in the COVID year, he scored 20 touchdowns. 20 receivers.
Did you not play?
I think in total, with games that weren't on our schedule, we played 12 or 13.
That's not bad.
He scored 20 touchdowns.
That's yeah.
So like, there were like he is legit, like, most probably, if not the best slot receiver in the UK.
Oh.
Great blocker as well. So he might not be the biggest in stature, but like, he's a great blocker. Max, number 13 for Titans. I'm sure everyone saw him in the finals.
I think a lot.
Yeah. I think a lot of people saw him in the finals.
I think his number got called quite a few times.
Yeah.
On the stream.
And him as well. He's only like 21. He's young.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So like, I think he's like 21, maybe 22 maximum. Like, he's young still.
A lot of young players.
Receiver wise, also, let's see, got 2 more receiver spots. Trying to think. So there was a receiver at Warriors called Manny back in the day. Can't remember what number he wore now, slipping my mind, but I think the best deep threat receiver I've ever played with or had to cover in practice. Like, he was unreal, like, in terms of quickness, everything. And then last receiver, I'd have to be fair, like, I grew up with him quite a lot. So I knew him when he was young coming up. Taylor Burke for Warriors as well.
Okay.
And I know at the finals he never had the biggest involvement. But in terms of kind of what he's achieved and what he's done and where he kind of came from, he's a great receiver. Like, fantastic. Good blocker, strong blocker, good player. Fantastic. So I'd say, yeah, that's my offense. I'm happy with that.
That sounds like a good, solid. To be fair, that sounds like a solid O line, a very, very outstanding QB, 2 dominant running backs that, if you don't stop them on the line of scrimmage, they've gone for a touchdown.
They're gone.
And then the receiving core, you need the best DBs, and yeah, you need the best players to cover them.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Solid. Yeah.
Right, defense.
Yes.
Right, D line.
and you can't put yourself in this.
I can't. I was going to.
No, no, you cannot put yourself in this.
Right. So D line with D tackles, I would go with Ade. Ade, I believe how you pronounce it properly. Played for the Warriors. He wore number 54 back in 2013. Not sure what he was wearing at the finals. Think he had a different number. Other D tackle, let me see. I'd most probably have to go with Charlie at Manchester. So he's number 99. He came back from injury this year. So he played like a selection of snaps and games this year. But I think the first game that he played in, and he came back from an Achilles tear, I believe it was. The first game he played in this year, I don't think he had more over 10 snaps, and he had like 2 sacks, 4 hurries up, and a bat down. And I was just like, that's a bit mad. Like, that's crazy. Regardless of who you're playing.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Wow.
That's pretty much every snap you took, you've done something.
A very effective player.
And then what I would say... So I'm going to run a 4-2-5 like we do at Manchester. Okay. I give love for my DBs. I got to. And then, so the other two ends... This one's hard because there's some great ones.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the ends as well, and I'm thinking the ones that are at the Warriors, and I know the ones that are at Tamworth at Titans as well. It's a hard pick for you, and I'm glad I ain't the one that has to do it.
So one of the ends is going to be Cade, so number 94 for Titans. Consistent. Obviously, he's playing for GB right now as well. Consistent, like. You might look at him, you might think he's a bit undersized. Yeah. But, like, the dude's rapid. Like, his run support, his get off is ridiculous. Crazy. The other end is the tough one.
Ooh, was he going to go Warriors or is he going to stick with a Titans?
So I know he's played end before, so I'm going to put Niall there.
Oh,
because he used to play end. Like when I was at Warriors, he played end a bit. He did play linebacker, but he played end before. So I'm a cheat and put him there.
No, because I remember I heard that he played end in GFL.
Yeah, he played. Yeah, when he was at Dredson, I believe he was playing end.
Yeah.
So I'm a cheat because I played with Niall back when I was 14, 15. We all came up together. So yeah, I'm a cheat and put him at end. He can go at end.
Okay, that's fair.
And then, so my two linebackers are going to be Sio Stevens and Ariel from Warriors.
Okay.
I don't know how much you know about those two. I'm sure you've heard of the names.
I've heard of Ariel. Sio Stevens, not as much.
I think Sio, after 2013, he kind of stopped playing. But he was involved in like one of the first ever like NFL pathway programs, like when NFL Europe was like sponsored by the NFL.
Oh. So
he was involved in that, and they were like the guys when me, Niall, and all that were kind of coming up. They were already like the guys, and I think I'll say this very openly. Like I still speak to him here and there now. I spoke to him after the final. But I'll quite happily say I think Ariel was most probably the best football player I've ever been around. Wow. Okay. Like from his mentality to his leadership to his game, like he's unreal. Wow. And he played at a high level at safety and linebacker. Like it didn't change when he moved around. So I would happily go out and say that he is. He'll most probably get a big head about it, but he's one of the guys where we came up like he's one of the guys that we looked up to. It was like that's what we got to do. That's what we've got to be part of this team.
We need to be that special.
Yeah,
and
so
then
it
moving
was good
around
to it
like
was really good opportunity to actually be able to play alongside him and start in a defense with him because it taught you so much as a young player of what you needed to do. So they'll be my two linebackers. Sayo's kind of like your big middle linebacker. He's your thumper. He's your run stopper. And Ariel's like your guy that he's going to hit you, but he can cover the whole field as well. So you're good.
okay.
So
Hmm.
corners, I'm going to go with Sam Obi.
Okay.
Sam Obi was another guy that being in the DB group with him as a young player, like he taught me how to be professional, how to approach things, what to kind of look for, what to do. And then the other corner, Ricky Delver, Manchester Titans #1. So you saw him in the finals. I think he only got tested like twice, but nothing happened.
Yeah.
Fantastic corner, like athletic, fast, like for his size, he's physical. He worked well with him communication wise. He's fantastic. So now I get three safeties. So I'm happy with that.
Free safeties. Jesus.
So free safety, I will take Alex Eager. So he played in the final. He was
Okay.
our free safety. He got a pick. I think he ended up the final with like 13 tackles.
Wait, he's 89?
No, 28, I believe he was
Oh,
wearing.
okay.
So again, you might look at him and think like, he's not that big. He's not got much size to him. But I don't think there's a much better run support safety than him. Like you know he's gonna make the tackle. You're not worried because you know he's gonna do it.
Yeah.
And the best thing about him, he's a ball hawk because he was a GB receiver as well. So
Oh,
like,
lovely.
so he's an athlete. He's good, and he's like the nicest guy you'll ever meet as well. Nicest guy. So yeah, Alex Eager at
Very
free
nice.
safety, and then obviously I can't pick myself, which is a bit unfair. But
It's not unfair.
I the two other safeties I would go would be both from the Warriors. So one of them would be Ashley Bailey. He played back way in 2013. He wore number
Okay.
22. Like, if you ever want a safety that had like no regard for his body, that was him. Like he just zero care about anything. Just run, hit, boom, athlete. And then Dan McKenzie, he was number 20 in the finals.
Okay.
So he's another one that played five aside with, grew up with throughout the Warriors. Again, great safety,
Wow.
great player.
Huh.
But yeah, I'd
Wow.
say I'm confident with that. I'd say them. I'm sure some people might not be happy, but I'd say them.
Hey, you can't please everybody. There's only 22 spots
Yeah,
that
it
you can
is.
put in. That's I'm not gonna deny it. I'm looking at that. I'm looking at that roster, and just them playing for a whole game could do damage in a league.
It'd be devastating. It'd be tough.
I'd love to. If that was possible to see, I'd love to watch that type of game.
Yeah, and they can play someone else's starting
Hmm.
teams.
Yeah, I think a lot of people start other starting teams are a lot younger,
Yeah,
a lot younger. Okay, so I caught you off track
you got me a
with
little
that
bit.
one. Hey, I love it. I love that. I love that question. That's the whole point of that one. But okay, so seeing how we've seen you've played in the US, you've come back,
Hmm.
you've done everything like that. I was going to talk about the championship, but I'll leave that for a bit longer.
Yep.
Um, but seeing how this game has developed over the last couple of years, and
Hmm.
we were talking about how we could get Baffa to develop in a sense, but with the NFL pro academy, you've got Filton Pride that's starting to build up a lot more, and they're in the Bucks. They're now in the Bucks
Yeah, Uniball like
league,
Prem
the
One,
Uniball league
not
now.
Prem One, Division One, Division One.
No, Prem one.
Are they
They
in
got
Prem
promoted.
now?
Yeah, they won Division One last year.
Oh, so they got to play
Their
Yui. So they
first
got
year
to play
in,
each other.
yeah,
Yeah, makes sense.
their first year in, they get promoted. So says a lot. Even though that outfit is completely different.
Hmm.
But then you've got the CFL Global Combine that happens here every year now.
Yep.
You've got the NFL International Pathway that we've seen a lot of people that we know have been in a part of that. How great is it to see things like that happening,
Mm.
even though it's past our time, and obviously we if we try to do that now, we probably wouldn't really get a look in.
Yeah,
But
age is the
how
thing.
yeah, but how do you feel that this happening now is great for the sport, but also bad for the sport in the UK?
Um,
Because,
so the thing is, I wouldn't say it's ever bad. It's not bad because the thing
okay,
is, what these programs are doing, they're trying to get these players to NCAA and the pros.
yes,
It's not like they're training them to go play in GLF1 or in
no,
Europe somewhere. They're training them to where they get university scholarships to D1 schools, D2, D3, to have a chance to actually make it to the NFL, CFL, arena football, whatever. So
yeah,
it's not like they're like, right, we've got, let's just use the NFL Academy for a reason. It's not like, oh yeah, right, we've got this NFL Academy and everyone that we think is good enough, we'll just send you to GLF1. That's
yeah,
not the approach. Like, what they're trying to do, well, what I believe looking from the outside in, is they're trying to get all these kids over to America to get an education to have a chance to go pro.
yeah. Uh, okay, I think I should probably clarify when I say bad.
Uh
I
huh.
mean when I say bad, I mean like for the UK game, obviously I want all the kids that are in NFL Academy to obviously make it pro,
Hmm.
go big. But do you feel that people, obviously, when I say bad, I mean like the youth are technically the future of BAFA
Yeah.
in a sense as well. Those that ain't able to make it, do you feel that they will not even think about BAFA and just probably just go Europe if they don't make it to the NFL? That's what I mean in
Yeah.
terms of
Okay.
bad, like
So
the
yeah,
development
they
wise, they
will,
won't.
but the reason why they're doing that is because obviously it takes time. I'm not going to say it will be like, oh yeah, tomorrow we're changing it.
Yeah,
But again, from the outside in, it doesn't look like BAFA are doing anything to create a pro league to keep these people. Why would you?
yes,
Why would you? What it seems like, you have two options. Let's say you don't get to an NCAA college from the NFL Academy, right, or
yeah,
the Pride Academy. So now your next two options are this: you go to your local team and you pay £300 to play for a year of football,
yeah,
or you go to a completely different country where you're going to get thousands of fans, get some money, get looked after, get experience, and play at a higher level. Which one are you going to pick?
well, I'm going abroad.
That's what I mean. Like,
Yeah,
you're basically telling someone like, oh, here's this amazing 5-star 3-course meal over here, but we got McDonald's Happy Meal here. Which one are you going to go to?
yeah, yeah, I get that. Yeah, that's
So
true.
it's
It
not
is
it's
true.
not that it's their fault that they're going to Europe, because it's acceptable why they're doing it, because it's a higher level of football. And again, there's people from Europe that have got picked up to go to the ELF now, the CFL combined, and I'm
Yes,
sure there's a few that have been
international
picked up and
pathway.
gone to the NFL pathway.
Yeah, there is.
So if you have
Uh,
those three opportunities playing in Europe, and then in your opportunity in BAFA, you have an opportunity to, I guess the highest thing you can do is win a British national championship. Which one are you going to pick?
yeah,
Don't get me wrong, that's not discrediting the championship, because it's hard work to get them. But you're going to pick the potential pro path to just the life
yeah,
career of UK football. Is there's no contest of what you're going to pick.
yeah. And I think asked that question. I was like, how long do you feel that it's going to be? Because obviously, BAFA have their 10-year plan.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard about this, but then I also asked. I was like, how long do you feel it's going to be before people are like, I'm tired of paying? Like the youth are like, I don't really want to pay. I'm just going to
Mm.
go abroad. Like
It,
I
it
feel like that's going to be
it's
close.
happening already. They're all going.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, not everybody goes, but the first people, like, so obviously in the off season, every team is recruiting massively. The first things out of people's mind, the good players, are, if I don't go Europe, I'll come with you. So
Very true.
it's never, oh yeah, I want to play for you. You're who I want. Thank you for recruiting me. It's like, if I don't go to Europe and get paid, then I'll come to you.
Yeah.
Like the thing
And
is, it's fine if Bafa have a 10-year plan. Like I said, I don't know anything. Like, I'm not good with this. I just play football. So I'm sure there's so much that needs to go into it, so much money, so much planning. But the thing is, within the time you're doing that 10-year plan, you already have Pride, ELF, CFL invites, and NFL Academy that already potentially 10 years in front of you.
yeah.
So you're
Yeah.
battling organizations that are already doing to an extent what you want to do. So why would you not maybe, again, I don't know how it works, start contacting them and be like, let's work together. We want to be
Yeah.
here. You guys are here. Let's meet in the middle and keep our guys
That,
here if they don't go to America.
yeah.
But again, I don't know. I'm not. I just play football. I just have
Yeah.
my
All we
opinions
can
of
do.
what I feel like would make things better. But
Yeah.
I
All we can
understand
do is
there's loads
speculate.
of things that go into it.
Yeah. All we can do is speculate at the moment in time until a real plan is put forward to everybody. But again, that's what I just wanted to know because I've asked different people that question, and everyone has different types of answers.
Mm,
So it's a real interesting one to see what everyone looks at it as. So yeah, yeah. But yeah, but along your football, obviously with that, with all them opportunities that you've had now,
yeah.
when you were younger, when you were playing football, was there something that you regretted that you never got to try, or did you try everything that you wanted to do playing football?
Um, I think if I knew, because at the time I never really knew Europe was a thing.
Okay.
So when I decided to go to America, there was a lot of different reasons why I went. It wasn't just football, but football was a big part of it. But I never knew Europe was a thing. I think if I knew Europe was a thing, I loved my time out in Florida. It was great. It taught me a lot of things. But I think if I knew Europe was a thing when I kind of came back to the country, I most probably would have went to Europe and stayed out there for like my career, whether it be one team or like multiple different teams. So I wouldn't say I regret it because like where I'm at in life right now, like I'm in a good place, got a good job, good kind of like family ties and everything. I'm happy. And I think when I look at my football career between here and America, like it's decorated. Like I've got a lot of achievements, like a lot of things going for me as a player. So I'm not mad about it. I'm not upset about it. I feel like my career as a football player has been great. But I think if I knew Europe was as big a thing as it was when I got back from America, I would have went straight to a European team rather than let me try and sort out my life now type vibe. It would have
Yeah.
been a different
Okay.
approach.
Okay. 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 I get that. I understand that. You've had a long football career, but I'm sure
Yeah.
you've had a lot of heartbreaking moments in games.
Mm.
What's been the worst moment that you can relive that won't really make you draw up your feelings again? What was the worst heartbreaking moment in the game?
The worst heartbreaking moment was I always get years mixed up because they always overlap. It's always like 2 years as a season. It's weird. It always
Yeah.
confuses me. But so the year before we won in 2013 with the Warriors, we
Yeah.
was in the Brick Bowl again with the Blitz. We actually beat them twice that year. So we were like the home team. We won the division. Like we're in the finals. we're like, yeah, this is our year. We've done all this work, and then I believe we lost 18-0 in the finals.
Yeah, I think I
And I
remember that one.
think that was the only time in my footballing career I've ever cried over this sport because, like, I don't think people never know what teams do to get these championships. There's obviously like a
Very true.
blueprint that teams have to do, but nobody really knows what goes into these championships. Like, regardless of it being an amateur sport, the late nights, the early mornings, the constant injuries, the mental up and downs, the time that you have to spend away from like friend and family, like
Yes.
so much goes into it. And that year we were like, this is our year, like we're gonna do it, like this is it. And it just didn't happen. And I think everyone was in so much shock that year, like it didn't break people like mentally because we came back next year and was like, that's not happening again. But it was a
Yeah.
shock. It was just like, wow, like damn,
Yeah.
it was tough.
So the year that you lot lost 18-0 was 2011.
Yeah,
Then in 2012 it was 37-21 that you lot lost to the Blitz.
mm.
And then obviously 2013 was 26-23. Which I
Oh
remember
no,
that game because I remember that game. That game was fucking fantastic.
yeah, that yeah. So there, that's like there. So that's my mixed up with years. So it was like the 37 game. That was like the because that was the first team that I was in the first year. I was in the senior year.
Yeah.
So the 18-0, I was still in youth or junior. I can't remember what it was called back then. So then
Appreciate it. So
the year that we lost like 37 to something, I think was the year where we went fully undefeated. We beat them twice. We won the South, and then that happened,
yeah,
and it was just like damn. And then obviously 2013, it was just
was the start.
yeah, it was the start. It was a great game, but it was the start. It was time for like it was gonna happen.
Yeah. Man, I'm actually looking at it and I'm actually just reliving some of these finals because I remember watching most of them. Actually,
Mm.
I watched all of them from 2010, and they were some really great finals,
Yeah, they were good
really
finals,
great
good teams as
finals,
well.
and not one boring game.
To be
Especially,
fair, I don't think there's ever been a final that's kind of been boring. Like the two teams that I've got there have always put on a good game.
yeah, no one's backed down. No one's just been like, okay, we've made it. Now let's try and win this as much as we can. No one, even if they're down, no one actually puts their head down. They keep
Yeah, it's
trying
a
to
fight. Yeah,
outscore the other team, which is what you want to see in a final, which is good.
it's meant to be the
Right,
two best teams, isn't it? So you would hope so.
exactly. Yeah, you would hope so, but I know sometimes it didn't because Manchester obviously came up from Division One in 2017,
Yeah, I'm
and
not
again,
very good on history of Manchester. I've only been there
yeah,
like 2 years, so
from what I've heard, that the way that so don't correct me if I'm wrong here,
hmm
but from what I know, that there's been a select few of players that have been from Manchester from Div 2 and they've stuck with the team all the way up to now as well. So they've
yeah,
been there for this whole period of time.
yeah, they've been there for
So
like
like,
5 years
you have,
plus.
yeah, okay,
Because
yeah.
I
So
think
I am right. So then there's
yeah, because I think with the history of it, again, I'm just here to play football, but I think a lot of them
yeah.
started at UClan University. So the core
Oh,
group started at UClan, and then they all went to the Lancashire Wolverines. So when the Wolverines were in the Prem, they were kind of all there, that core group. And then I don't know the
oh,
ins and outs of it, but I'm guessing something happened, and then somehow they all went to Manchester, and then that's when Manchester was like Div 2 all the way to national championship this year. But there's
mm,
definitely been a massive core group that have been there from the bottom to now the top.
wow, that's nice. So I'll try to get past it, but I'm just gonna go into it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
this season, all right. So at the beginning of this season, there was a podcast, X's and O's.
Yeah,
All right. So
yeah,
I don't, you know exactly what I'm talking
yeah,
about,
yeah.
yeah.
I'm open about it.
So there was a statement that said that Manchester won't do anything special. I don't know it word for word,
So the word I
but
can
they
tell
just
you
don't
what I can tell
see.
you. So the words
Okay.
were, I don't see the hype in Manchester. I just don't think they're a good team. I just don't see it.
Okay. And was that fuel for you guys' fire to be like, okay, okay, it's time to prove you wrong, or
So
did that just
so things like that. So so something that we're really good at Titans or Manchester, whatever you want to call us, is
yes.
we are very good at building our own hype and believing our own hype. People
Hmm.
say things about us consistently. So in COVID year, when we were playing like Div 1 teams, everyone was like, oh, it's a year off. Let's all just have fun. We took COVID year as a year to develop this championship team. So when Prem came back around, we were ready to go.
Okay.
So when we took COVID season and did that, everyone was like, nobody's scared of Manchester. You're only beating Div 1 teams. Nobody's impressed. Why are you doing that for? Yada, yada, yada.
Okay.
So that's where a lot of the hashtags come from, like, we don't care about your feelings, all this type of stuff. So that's where it comes from because, like, have your opinions, have your feelings, but we're doing us. This is our hype. This is what we're building for. We think we were ready to win the national championship in 2019 before COVID hit.
Oh, nice.
We had the mindset then and there that we this is our year, and then we got hit. Everyone got hit by COVID, and then people fell back and was like, "Oh, it's a year off. We'll just have fun." We was like, "Nah, fuck that. Like, it's championship. This is what we want. So we're gonna use this season as quote unquote. This isn't disrespectful to teams, but extended scrimmages and practices against these teams to get ready for when the real thing comes back." So,
Yeah.
so going back to your question, it doesn't fuel us, but we know exactly what's said about us.
Okay.
We make sure we keep receipts of everything that gets said. So then when things happen that prove opinions wrong, we're like, we told you so. And then that's what we
Yeah.
leave at. Because if you look at our players' social medias, you'll never see us share loads of things. Like, we'll share the odd thing. There'll be an odd little thing here and there, but we'll never go on social media and be like, F this team, we told you, don't talk about us, yada. We never do that.
Yeah.
We'll share the odd thing just to be like, I told you so. Just remember you said that about us. But that's it. It will never go further than that. We're not a social media public team that does that. So we kind of just go with that and push with that. So, like I said, we believe our own hype. We create our own hype. And I guess you can say what other teams say kind of feed into it a bit. Because we're like, okay, then watch us do it.
Mm.
So
Okay.
yeah, so when XSO put that up, like, they have a great podcast. I've watched it a few times, but I never watched that one when it got said. Like, I got it sent to me,
Oh.
and I was like, oh, okay. Like, because I like this isn't like a disrespectful comment, so I don't want it to be taken as that. But I don't know who that guy is.
Of course.
Like, that's not being
Okay. Yeah.
disrespectful. Like I don't know him. So when he said that, I was just like, wow, who's this guy? Like, what has he done to make that valid opinion? Because it's north versus south, it's just right to say that we're not serious. Because there was also another comment in that podcast that if Bristol were in the north, they would win it every single year.
Oh. Didn't hear that.
Yeah, yeah. If you go back and watch it, there's a Bristol comment that Bristol would win. That's not saying Bristol aren't a good team because they are. So I don't want people to take this like I'm saying Bristol aren't a good team. But it's disrespectful to us as Titans and to teams like Tamworth and the other northern teams to be like, oh, if this southern team does come up here, we would be irrelevant.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I do understand that.
So the thing is, because we actually had a little exchange on social media when I posted it and tagged them.
Yeah.
Me and the guy that said his things, and he replied to me. He was like, "Oh, I said what I said," and then I replied and I was like, "You're more than happy to say whatever you want. You're entitled to your opinion." But then I writ, "Facts over opinion. We're in a championship game."
Mm,
And then he replied like, "True," and it kind of got left at that. So it's kind of like that situation, like that same thing what I said earlier to you. We don't start things. People talk about us, and we just prove people wrong and do us, and then people are like, "Oh, hold up a sec, damn, they did that." So they're great guys at X's and O's. There's no hate towards them. They're great guys. They have a great podcast. They do a lot in the world for like British, because I know they went out for like the women's GB games. So they do great. So there's no hate towards them. So I don't want anyone to think watching this like, oh, like fuck X's and O's, because that's not it. But it's just you're allowed an opinion. Just make sure when that opinion's proved wrong, you're willing to stand your ground on what you said.
Yeah, that's true. Right. So obviously we're gonna skip the whole regular season because we all know what happened there.
Yeah.
That semi-final game against Bristol. All right. So we spoke on Instagram before that game, and even I had my reservation because I hadn't seen how you lot played. I hadn't been able to watch any games, so I didn't know. So in my initial thoughts, I did go with Bristol to win that game. And I thought it was gonna be a close game. I didn't think it was gonna be a blowout because I didn't think any of the semi-finals were gonna be an absolute blowout.
No, they were all great games, both of them.
You technically are the best 4 teams in the country this year, and I did go back and watch that game, and that had a crazy sort of ending because Bristol sort of came back into it. You lot took the lead and they came back into it. What was your feeling as that game was going on, especially with their sort of comeback, their slowly fight to getting the score closer?
So it was a great game. Again, all credit to Bristol. They had some great players. They're a great team. Like they were there for a reason. I think first half of that game, we dominated. It was 17-0 at halftime. Like their offense, I believe, didn't pick up a first down all game. The only first down they got called back on like a holding call or something, so they never got a first down the whole first half. That's what I've been told stat-wise. Obviously, I don't pay attention to it, but that's what I've been told. Yeah. So I go with that because it makes the defense better. So first half, like we dominated, and the second half, I think, in my mind as a player and confident, I never thought we were going to lose that game.
Okay.
Like going into the game, scouting for them, watching film on them, I never once said, yeah, they're going to beat us. Because I generally thought we were the better team. But what Bristol did in the second half is what won them a lot of games this year and kept them very close against the Warriors, where they had a great athlete and player at QB, and they had some great receivers that got a lot of production over extended broken plays.
No.
So, again, that's not saying they weren't moving the ball when they're traditional using their offense, but they're very good, and I'm very confident by saying they practice extended plays. Because you can tell they do, because the way their receivers were breaking off of routes, just by normal, it was like, yeah, you've done this, like you've practiced for this. And those plays, obviously people that don't really know football will say, oh, they only happen because it was lucky. but they trained for that. They were built to extend plays and make things happen, and that helped them slowly claw back into the game. And that, again, that's not taking anything away from them. They're a great opponent. They deserving to be there. But just as a player, confidently, I never thought we were going to lose that game. I had full confidence if the ball was in our offensive hands at the end of the game, or defense had to stop them, which we did, the game was going to be won because I trusted the players around me and our team of what we were going to do, either side of the ball.
Okay. Okay. To be fair, from when I heard the score, I was like, okay, this final should be very interesting. It should be a very uphill battle. So obviously you won the game, and then you found out that you're playing Warriors.
Yeah.
Did you feel Did you feel kind of emotional because you're playing the team that you started off with? Did you feel a type of way? You're like, okay, it's going back home. Let's. How did you get prepared for that? How did you feel?
So when obviously we found out we were playing them, because we obviously after the game we started seeing like score updates, and it was like, Tamworth are winning, now Warriors came back. It was like, oh damn, that was like a really good game.
Yeah.
And then when I when I found out we were playing Warriors, like I messaged a few of the guys that obviously used to play with still on the team, and then some people that are retired that were on the team back when I was there. And I was just like, damn, like this is weird. Because like I said to you at the beginning of the podcast, I never in my life thought I would play for another team in the UK other than them. Like, if it weren't for me being up north, that would have been the case. It always would have been Warriors, Warriors, Warriors. But obviously, moving up north, I can't travel down south just for practice. Like, it's not how it works. So
that's a lot.
When I kind of found out, I was like, damn, this is weird. Like, I know everyone near enough on that team. And I'm like, damn. It was weird. Like, it wasn't emotional. Like, it wasn't like that. It was just like,
yeah,
right, this is gonna be fun. Like, get to enjoy it. It was good. It was fun. I think with the preparation part, for me, is I don't think my mindset ever changed to, right, we said we're gonna win a championship, we're gonna win the championship. So even though like after we beat Bristol and we knew we were going, and having a couple of talks with them guys, once that kind of went out my system, I was just like, right, like, yeah, we're not talking. Like, that's not it. Like, we don't know each other. We'll respect each other. Like, if we see each other, we'll be like, yeah, nod. But then it's game time. So we prepared the same. It was like, watch all the film, do all this, do that. So I think preparation just kicked back in of being like the competitor of like, right, this is the team we have to beat. Doesn't matter who's on that team that I know, we need to beat them.
And obviously, traveling down did you not travel down on the Saturday, or did you come down on the Friday?
So people did a lot of different things. So the team coach traveled down on Saturday.
Okay.
And then a very big bunch of us came down kind of Friday. And we kind of like chilled on Friday night, got some food, had a nice sleep, woke up, went to the stadium early and just kind of like relaxed and be there. So it's kind of split. There was about, most probably I'd say half on coach, half went down on Friday.
Okay. And when you got to the stadium, did it start to kick in that you was like, this is our time, this is real, someone pinched me, like this is actually about to happen within the next 5 hours, we're either going to be champions or we're going to be runner-ups.
Yeah. So, yeah, like, mate, it kicked in massively because obviously having a championship already, I wasn't like, when I showed up to the stadium, like personal, it wasn't like, oh, this is my first time here. Like, I was kind of confident. The people I was talking to in the stands and that, they're like, how you feel? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, we're ready. Like, we're here for this. Like, we're going to do this. So I wasn't there like, oh, it's nervous. Because for me, I was like, I've been here before. I know what this is. But I think because normally there's two people that really speak quite a lot on the team, and that's obviously the QB Sam. He's a massive leader on the team, very vocal, and then me, I'm very vocal and very passionate about everything. So a lot of the times with the talks, we kind of like split them, and we speak when we feel like our differences will actually work because we both have very different approaches to how we do our talks. So we kind of know when to do them. So going back to kind of what you said, I think we was at halftime, and then I kind of brought the team in, and I kind of said to him, I was like, you literally have 2 quarters of football, 1 game left for like the rest of this season. You either gonna be known as the 2022 champions, or you're gonna be known as the season of what ifs. And I was like pick which one you want, because you're gonna be one or the other regardless.
Yeah.
And then I think from the beginning all the way to halftime, all the way to the end, I'm sure you could have seen it like as a spectator. I don't think there was ever a time that anyone would have looked at us as a team and thought they really don't think they're gonna lose.
Yeah.
Like there was never a time where you would have looked at us and been like, "Oh, they've never been here before. They don't know how to handle it." We were us.
Yeah.
We were hyped. We were supportive of each other. We were, if it was a 1 yard gain, 50 yard gain, touchdown, or punt, we were like, amazing, good job, blah blah blah, hype, 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 and that's what we are. And I think people really got to see on a national level what Manchester are.
Yeah, because I think so. In the crowd itself, the crowd itself in the stands were all definitely everything from Manchester. It was loud. It was very, very loud. But when Sam threw that first touchdown, when he just threw that first lobbing touchdown, were you not? Was everyone just excited and just jump up and down and be like, "This is happening"? And then the second touchdown was thrown, and you was like, "Okay, we're in control." But your defense as well. Your offense was amazing, but your defense balled the hell out.
We legit.
Like
we legit.
You lot balled the hell out, and they were. Was it number 21 that did the hurdle on one of the first drives?
That was Tom Jones.
Okay.
So Tom Jones, he was wearing number 34, and then he hurdled Reese number 2, the corner for Warriors, and then so it's like what you said. So obviously, the first couple of drives were battles. It was like punt, 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 and then obviously Sam threw that first touchdown pass, and then we were just like, right, it's time, like, boom, hype, hype, hype. This isn't gonna stop now. And then it went punt, punt, punt again, I believe, something like that. And then obviously Tom did the hurdle. Everyone was like, best play in life. That hype everything up. And then I think on one drive out of nowhere, I think like a normal, like just power run that is most probably designed to pick up 3 to 8 yards, Tom just stepped outside and went. And then I think once that happened, that was it. I don't think there was no way possible we were losing that game.
Yeah.
It was just the crowd came to our side. I mean, the photographers on our sideline were vibing with us. Like, it was like we was in Manchester. And we were just like, this is ours. Like, this is ours.
And when that final whistle went, and it was confirmed that you lot were the 2022 champions, how many of you lot just looked at each other and just cried, or just hugged each other, or just jumped up and danced?
I think everyone did that. Everyone had their own emotions to it. Like, it was unreal. Because it's like what you said earlier, you had those people that were building this team for like 15 to 20 years plus, all the way from UClan to what Manchester is now. You had that group of people that it meant like everything for like 15 to 20 years of just work. And then you had the people that were, it was their last year and they played for the team for like X amount of years, never touching that championship, and they finally got it on their last year. And then you had people like myself and others that have been for the team for like 1, 2, 3 years. Like, we've been a massive part of making this happen. So everybody just came together in their own way. And it was crazy. Like, I don't think no other team, this could be totally wrong because it's based off opinion, but I don't think winning a championship meant more to any other team this year than us. Because of how we were doubted, because of what we were talked about, because of all the years that were put in. This championship, if any other team won it, they would have loved it. Don't get me wrong, I'm not taking that away. But it wouldn't have meant what it meant to like the city of Manchester.
Yeah.
And that's just how I feel about it.
Yeah. And you could see it. You could see it from every single person. Every single person in that lineup, every single person in the stands. You could just see it. And I think I sent you the clip. I got the last pick 6.
Yeah. Massive clip.
I was just that there and I was just watching it. I was just like, huh. Okay. I was like, is he gonna make it or is he gonna get hit by someone and then just come right into me? I was like, this game, in my head, I was just like, this game is legit. This was an amazing game for a neutral, for media, for the fans of either team. It was a great game.
Yeah.
But do you feel that? Actually, scratch that. Back to back.
I'm saying yeah.
Okay.
I'm not like we've talked like here and there for quite a bit now, and I think it will start to rub off like any more encounters we have. I will back my team, my boys, myself until the day comes until we lose, which I'll still back ourselves. I'm saying we're going back to back. So whoever wants to meet us in the final, like, you can meet us there. Okay. That's up to the other 3 to 4 teams that want to fight for that other spot. That's their choice.
Okay, so you've won 2 championships.
Yeah.
Which one was the sweetest?
See, they both have the exact same feeling because they were like the first ones. They were both the first ones for the franchise. So
that is very true.
But I think with the Warriors one, even though we were underdogs, it was still kind of expected it was going to happen eventually. With the Titans, it was never expected. So I think I would have to go with this year's one, because even though we won the North, we still weren't meant to win the championship. People were still saying that we weren't the best team in the North, which, all respect to Tamworth, they're a great team, but we are the best team in the North. But not everybody said we was, because we split games, and that's fair. You're allowed that. But nobody. So at the beginning of this season, I said it in one of my Instagram posts when I posted up about winning the championship. I put it in my caption. We were never meant to beat Tamworth. We did that. Yeah. We were never meant to win the North. We did that. We were never be to stand a chance against a Southern team. We did that. We was never meant to make it to the championship. We did that. And we was never meant to beat the Warriors. We did that.
Proved everybody wrong.
Everything that everyone said we were never meant to do, we did.
You did it.
But I still don't feel people give us the respect that we deserve. I really don't.
No. Yeah. I can agree with that. I don't think a lot of people do. Which it's sort of disappointing, because it's like you took a team that had never lost since 2017. Since that semi-final against Tamworth in 2017, they had not lost the game until the 3rd of September 2022.
Yep.
and it was a big loss. It wasn't a little. It wasn't a one touchdown. It was a very, very 30-point difference.
Yeah.
So for people to dismount, push Titans to the side, and you lot don't deserve it, you lot definitely deserve that victory in
Hmm.
all aspects of life and ways that you lot have grinded throughout the whole year. So again, Manchester Titans won the championships and fantastic. But again, you've told me how you lot are gonna celebrate your ring, getting your ring,
Yeah.
getting your championship, and is that gonna be? Is it who's gonna be recording that? You lot got someone to record that emotional moment, or you lot
Yeah.
gonna do
So
it yourselves?
we normally have a photographer, Mark Ferris. He comes to all of our games. Like, again, just in terms of a photographer, he
Yes,
does all of our photography voluntarily, and he gives it all to us. He releases all of his pictures to the public.
nice.
So, like, don't get me wrong, I understand like photography is a business for people, and I understand it costs. So I'm not saying, stop putting watermarks on your pictures because it's your business.
Yeah,
But for what he does for our team and what he means to like our family, like after that final, he captured so many memories and moments for people, and he
that
did it just for
is
the fact that he wanted to be part of the team and he loved being part of Manchester. So I just want to make sure like he gets massive credit, and I'm sure he will be at the awards night getting his ring that he deserves, the same,
lovely.
and recording and taking pictures for us. So, but I'm sure there'll be tons of videos all over social media when that day comes. So I'm sure you won't be able to miss it.
Oh yeah, I want to see what the ring looks like.
Don't worry, when those
'Cause
rings comes, just log on to just search every Manchester player. They'll be everywhere. They'll be everywhere, and people will get reminded again. So there's no
yeah.
forgetting it. But I
Um.
do
Okay.
want to touch though on our
Yeah.
defense.
Okay.
So obviously Manchester's offense. Manchester's been known for offense for years. They've had a staple of players from Sam, from Adam Bamber, from all these players. They've been there for years. Joe Nick, Corey, like they've been there. So everybody knows the offense.
Yes.
So I'm sure if they watch this back, they'll know respectfully that they're established who they are. This year's defense, we finished the season with only conceding 108 points over 12 games. So that averaged to like 9 points a game.
Yes.
And
Yes.
what people don't know is this year's starting defense was the first year that we were a starting defense together. So there were some players
Oh,
that were together, but
but
this
not as a
starting
unit.
11 were the first year this year that we were together as a unit. And we finished with
Now
the second best defense in the country points wise.
that is very, very impressive.
So like obviously I'm a defensive player, like I'm one of the captains, like I have a lot of pride for like the players on defense. And I kind of
Yeah.
like I know offense are very established. I know people know Manchester for offense, but I just want
Yeah.
people to realize that there's a defense in Manchester now as well, and that's not going anywhere anytime soon because all the starters are coming back next year.
Whew.
So
Whew.
it
Hey,
is it's going to be year two for the defense next year.
I am looking for. I'm looking forward to it. As I will say now, I have plans to be able to come up to games up in the north as
Mm-hmm.
well. So I have plans to do stuff like that. So I'm just make sure all you guys know, your guys know, be prepared to ask some questions during games and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Because
100%. We're here for it. We love the camera. We love it. We love being front and
That's
center.
amazing. I love it. There was another question.
Mm-hmm.
If you never found football,
Yeah,
we're getting towards the closing ends. If you never found football, what would you be doing on Sundays?
I might as well be playing English football. I like from whenever I could remember, I've always played sport. Like
Yes.
back on sports days, like I ran 100 meters, I ran hurdles, like played football for school teams, college teams, played rugby a little bit. There's never been a time in my life where I've not done some level of athletics or sports.
Okay.
So it most probably, if it wasn't for that just one fluke time where I found it when I was 13 years old and started American football, it most probably would have just been football. And then just most probably seeing where I would have took that and then having that as a hobby if it never went anywhere professionally.
Okay. Okay. And for the youngsters that are thinking about getting into the sports, or
Mm-hmm.
any adults that think that they're not fit enough to get into the sport, what sort of advice would you give them?
There's a lot to be fair. Like obviously, being a personal trainer myself, fitness is I say this loosely, but an easy thing to achieve. If you want to put your mind to it, you can get fitter. You can get in better
Yeah.
shape. You can get stronger, faster, fitter. You can do that. So obviously, in terms of thinking if you're not fit enough to play the sport, American football is most probably one of the sports where no matter what body size type you are, you can play. There's a position for you. So
Ain't that the truth?
so I would personally say the best bit of advice which helped me become the player that I've become and achieve everything I have personally is you need to be a sponge at this game no matter where you are in your career. You need to surround yourself with the best in the game. Like reach out to the people that have achieved things. Find the best team close to you and be part of them. Even if you don't feel you're good enough to start, if you're around
Yeah.
those great people, you'll learn 10 times quicker than starting on a team that isn't that good, but you're getting playing time.
Yeah.
So I would say if you're getting into the sport or you're especially if you're a young player, find a veteran that has achieved a lot in the game at your position and just ask questions, become a sponge, learn from them, mimic what they do, how they act. Because when you do that, like kind of what I spoke about earlier with when I was speaking about Ariel and like those guys when we were coming up, they set the tone for us so early in our young careers. We looked at
Yeah.
them like when we go up to that team, we have to be that level. So it was like it's just being around those people. So yeah, just be a sponge. Like social media is so big nowadays, you can reach out to any and everyone for free.
That is true.
Don't carry an ego. There's always something you can learn. Like I've played this game for 16 years, 17 years next year. I still speak to people and learn things from people all the time. You can never know everything. There's always someone that will give you something new that you could add to your game and make yourself a better player. So yeah, just be a sponge, find people, listen, be coachable, and define what you want from the sport.
Yeah. Hmm. That's very sound advice. And you are on GB for the upcoming games that they have played. They got coming up.
So we have a practice this weekend, not this weekend, next weekend on the 18th.
Yeah.
That is the final practice for the 75-man squad. And then the following week
Oh.
after that, we will know who the 45 is going to Italy in October on the 29th.
Okay. Italy's on the 29th.
29th of
Oh, you lot going
October.
Italy. You lot going Italy around Halloween time. Ooh, that's
Yeah.
good.
So it should be nice and fun.
Mm.
So we'll I'll know the week after the 18th if I've personally made the traveling squad.
Okay.
And so will everyone else, obviously currently on the 75.
Yes. Huh.
So we'll
Okay.
see with that. Because obviously we was meant to play Russia on the 1st of October, but obviously
Due
things
to
happened.
circumstances.
So I believe we'll fill that in with a practice with the 45-man squad once that's selected after the 18th.
Okay, that sounds good. That sounds good. But again, I would like to thank you, Sam, for jumping in and having this, spending the last 2 hours talking football, talking your
Yeah, it's been
history,
fun.
and obviously talking about the the amazing championship game that recently just went past. I hope that the next season is going to be as you lot want and back to back, and that you make your 53-man squad. And yeah, thank you for jumping into Unheard Voice, to be honest.
Nah, I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you for having me on, man. It's been fun.
Thank you. And everybody, I will see you for the next video. Not sure who it is going to be yet, but yeah, thank you all for jumping in. All right, bye.
All right, bye.